again for them. So before us is Dr. Marco, is the Executive Director of Holy Cross Institute at St. Edward's. So Dr. Marco, you are most welcome.
Hi there, Father Prosper. Thank you, and welcome to all of you. I know good morning here and good evening to all of you. It's remarkable to me that while technology is not perfect, it's really an amazing tool to be able to come to you today across the ocean and from sunny Austin, Texas, which you see in the background there. Again, as Father Prosper indicated, my name is Marco Clark, and I am the Executive Director of the Holy Cross Institute. I'm going to share my screen so that you have something much prettier to look at than just my face. And I've got a presentation that I'm going to share with you. So hopefully, let me get the presentation mode up here. Okay, so hopefully you can see that on your screen now. And to tell you a little bit about myself before we get started. So I'm a 32-year Catholic educator. I spent 23 of those years working as the principal and president at Bishop McNamara High School, which is a Holy Cross Brothers school located just outside of Washington, D.C. in the state of Maryland in the United States. 23 years there, I believe that at least 2 or 3 occasions, we had some faculty and even students who visited Holy Cross Lakeview. And a really wonderful experience. I remember Mr. Kyle Green had a chance to be there. Mr. Green taught computer science for us, and then Christopher Williams. And we've been able to partner on a couple of other projects as well. And good Lord willing, when this coronavirus passes through and life can get back to whatever normal will look like, I'll have a chance to come visit you sometime in the future. But I also invite you to come visit me in Austin, Texas at St. Edward's University. To tell you a little bit about the Holy Cross Institute, well, let me go back a moment just about me. So as a 32-year career educator, I got into this. I'd love to tell people that I got into this. I would love to say that I got into it for noble reasons. I really got into this because I wanted to be a high school football coach, American football. And that was the beginning for me. I was a school counselor, a classroom teacher, was a club moderator. I coached 3 sports and that's what I did for the first 8 years of my career. I got involved in administration a little by being the principal of the summer school program at the school I was at. And then as well, took on an admissions role where I was doing admissions and recruitment. It was shortly after that that I then became the principal at a competitor high school nearby in that Washington, D.C. area, Bishop McNamara. And then I became president. So I spent 13 years as principal and 10 years as the president. I'm also a father of 3. My kids are all grown, and we have 5 grandchildren. And so it is really a great joy and an honor for me as the first layperson to be the executive director of the Holy Cross Institute. I see it as a tremendous opportunity, but an even bigger responsibility to carry forth the remarkable legacy that all of us are a part of. The Holy Cross Institute was formed in 2004, and it's a partnership between St. Edward's University in Austin, Texas, and with the Congregation of Holy Cross, specifically the 2 brothers provinces in the United States. And when it was formed, the goal was to be able to create it as a leading resource center for Holy Cross educators around the world, where we conduct academic research, we develop papers, and we've got some things that are in publishing right now. So we'll be publishing some additional new books and other things for you. So reading resources, as well, leadership development and ministry development. We'll have some new programs we're going to launch this summer for new leaders in the Catholic schools. And this is for all. We have 115, actually more than 115 schools, colleges, and universities in 18 countries around the world. And so the goal is, as more and more lay people take on leadership roles and teach in our schools, it's important that we continue this very rich legacy, this 200-year legacy of the Holy Cross priests and brothers and sisters who came before us. So speaking of, this is the 200th anniversary of the Brothers of St. Joseph, who, as you know, became the Brothers of Holy Cross. So 1820, founded by Father Jacques de Jarier, in response to a period of time in French history right after the French Revolution. And Father de Jarier, I'll speak about in a few minutes. But these young men, these original Brothers of St. Joseph, went out in pairs and twos into the poor towns and villages in central France, primarily to provide Christian or Catholic education to the people there through the parishes, so elementary and secondary schools work. Of course, that blossomed over time to become the Congregation of Holy Cross. Excuse me. Of course, on your screen here are some of the noted Holy Cross figures in our history that are important to our history, right? In the middle, you see Blessed Basil Moreau, who is the founder of the Congregation of Holy Cross. To the left, the stained glass image is Father Jacques de Jarier, who's the founder of the Brothers of St. Joseph. And then you see the icon on the right, Saint Brother Andre Bessette, the Miracle Man of Montreal. And then in the bottom center is Father Edward Sorin, who founded the University of Notre Dame. So he was one of the missionary priests, along with the brothers, who came to South Bend, Indiana, to found the University of Notre Dame, and then subsequently St. Edward's University. As we celebrate this 200th anniversary of the Brothers of St. Joseph, I point to a book that's in the middle, The Brothers of St. Joseph, written by Brother George Clawitter. If you're interested in learning more about the Brothers of St. Joseph, not only is that a great book, but as well, Brother George was one of our featured webinar speakers back in August. The Holy Cross Institute has a YouTube page. You can subscribe to that YouTube page. And on that YouTube page is a copy of the webinar that Brother George gave us to talk a little bit more about the Brothers of St. Joseph. Of course, this is also a notable year because Pope Francis declared this is the year of St. Joseph. And so as we celebrate not only our 200th anniversary, it also seems very providential that we celebrate this year of St. Joseph, whom the brothers chose as their patron. And then the painting that you see over on the right is a beautiful image of Blessed Basil Moreau and Father Jacques de Jarier. Father de Jarier is in the wheelchair. And as we know in our history, there was a period of time where Father de Jarier led the efforts of providing Christian education, and then passed that baton or handed that off to Father Moreau, who went on to complete the vision of the formation of the Congregation of Holy Cross. So just very quickly, a little about our history that I'm sure you know, so I'm sorry to repeat any of this. But of course, 1820 was when the Brothers of St. Joseph were founded. 1837 was when the brothers and the auxiliary priests that Father Moreau was overseeing came together in what was known, or what is known, as the Fundamental Act of Union, and then hence began the official beginnings of the Congregation of Holy Cross. In 1841, Holy Cross began their missions, and one of those locations that they went to was the United States, founded the University of Notre Dame. There's also Holy Cross in New Orleans that came shortly thereafter. It was also in 1841 that Father Moreau invited the first women to be parts of the congregation. And sadly enough, in 1857, when the Congregation of Holy Cross's constitutions were approved by the Pope, unfortunately, they did not approve the women religious being part of a single congregation with the priest and the brothers. And so from that point, the women religious then formed their own congregations, which today we know as the Marionite Sisters of Holy Cross, the Sisters of the Holy Cross, and the Sisters of Holy Cross. So they actually became three branches of women. Holy Cross is all over the world. As I mentioned, we're in, I'm not even sure if this list that I have in front of you is fully up to date. I just got an update this morning from Father Abraham, who is the second assistant to the Superior General in Rome. But if you look at the beautiful stained glass image on the right there, that's the original congregational seal for the Congregation of Holy Cross. And you can see the Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary and Joseph, and then with the cross and the anchors, and then down below that banner that says JMJ for Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. So when we think about our roots and we consider, this concept of charism that you've probably heard about before, charism is a gift of the Holy Spirit, and that gift has been passed on. It's typically in response to a particular time and history, for the needs of society. And what were the needs of society at the time? Well, post French Revolutionary War France, there was a time of terrible religious indifference, certainly death, there was fear, there was ignorance, there was government suppression. We had lots of distinctions among people, especially socioeconomic distinctions. You had the rich and you had the poor, you had the uneducated, you had the undereducated, you had the highly educated, and typically it was the wealthy who were the highly educated ones. And so the people throughout north central France, where Holy Cross was founded in Le Mans, were people that were broken, they were oppressed, and there was a lot of despair and a lot of desolation. And what Father Moreau felt like after having upwards of 25 years of losses due to the French Revolution and then the years that followed, where young people were not receiving an education. They certainly were not receiving Christian education, Catholic education. So there was no catechesis that was taking place. And so he felt it was imperative and urgent that we begin working with the children, because he said, on this generation lie all hopes for the church and society. And he also described education as the art of bringing young people to completeness. And we know that for the Christian, that means to become more like Christ. I think we've also heard, of course, this quote many times before: the mind must not be cultivated at the expense of the heart. And so what Father Moreau felt was imperative was that as we educated and formed, as we educated the mind, we also needed to be forming the hearts. We needed to teach our students all that they should know so that they possess the competence to see and the courage to act, particularly the courage to act against matters of injustice and unjust networks of power and privilege. And so what happens through the work that we do in defining what does it mean to be a Holy Cross educator, we take our history, the elements of our history, which have also informed the spirituality of Holy Cross, Moreau's spirituality, and from that evolve a set of core values that we have as Holy Cross educators and Holy Cross schools. Some schools refer to them as the pillars of Holy Cross education. This beautiful quote down at the bottom of the screen says, "A Catholic education in the Holy Cross tradition transforms minds and hearts with zeal in communities of hope." And so as we look at that, and if we were to dissect that sentence, this was developed in 2013 among a collaboration of Holy Cross leaders from around the world who spent a week together exploring what does it mean to be Holy Cross. And if they had to narrow it down to one sentence, what would that one sentence look like? And so with these more than 115 schools in 18 countries around the world, this is what we agree to, is that we provide a Catholic education in the Holy Cross tradition, which transforms minds and hearts with zeal in communities of hope. And I'm going to come back to zeal in a little while. I love this image in this picture, by the way. This is a statue that is on the grounds in Le Mans, where the Maronite Sisters of Holy Cross, where the Solitude, what's known as the Solitude, the Solitude is where Father Moreau spent his last days, and it was there where he did a lot of his writings. I've had a chance to visit there, and you can just envision, it's up on a hilltop and it overlooks the town of Le Mans, just a really beautiful setting, very peaceful gardens. You can just imagine him walking through those gardens and sitting on the benches, writing the very writings that we refer to today. But this is a picture of St. Joseph, I should say a statue of St. Joseph teaching the young Jesus how to write. And so very much it's the image of what it is that we do, right? If you consider the awesomeness and the awe and wonder St. Joseph must have had to raise up this child that was not his own as a foster father, right? In so many ways, we are foster parents to our children. And to teach the baby Jesus all that he should know, So of course, teaching him to read and teaching him to write and teaching him scripture and teaching him how to live and forming his heart ultimately as a man of hope for the future. And so this foundational charism of the congregation, ultimately, based on what you know about the history, the foundational charism is to regenerate society, to bring about a better time by a constant response to the most pressing needs of the church and society. So think about that today, what our greatest needs are. We've now, more than 1 year ago, the world, in essence, was shut down by a pandemic, by a disease, by a plague, which has decimated so many lives. It's taken here in the United States over 500,000 lives, and around the world, many, many more. And as well, it's impacted business, it's impacted industry, it's impacted households. We see families who struggle. There's struggles with depression. There's struggles with isolation, and of course the socioeconomic impact of all of this as well. And of course we have governmental strife. We have wars still happening all over the world. And so when we think about 200 years ago, the Holy Cross response, the church's response to the times and the needs of society in Central France. And then we fast forward 200 years to today, very much we're in a position where what we do is not only relevant, but it's probably as important as ever to regenerate society, to bring about, to prepare for better times than these. Moreau's spirituality is based on these principles of zeal, hope, providing an option for the poor, having a spirit of forgiveness, being family, providing hospitality. It's remarkable to me when I visit schools. I've had a chance to visit all of the Holy Cross elementary and secondary schools in the United States, and I've been able to visit most of the colleges and universities. And there's some familiarity there. The familiarity is that spirit of family. When you step foot onto a Holy Cross campus, you feel that sense of family almost immediately. And if I were to walk through the halls, as I would do, and just ask people to use one word to describe their experience at that school, family is typically the word that's used. And then there's the wonderful hospitality. Everywhere that we go, the gracious, unselfish, humble hospitality that's provided. And and we're extensions of that, right? So we're in classrooms every day, and we're working with students, and we're talking with parents. But our students and the parents and the people that we work with, they should feel that sincere sense of warmth and hospitality and family. And then there's an inclusiveness, right? We don't look at people as we celebrate their differences, but we're also inclusive in mind and body and spirit. And so what does that mean? Kids that learn differently. It means kids that come from different socioeconomic backgrounds. It means any of the marginalized population. We're inclusive. Holy Cross provides an inclusive setting and an inclusive education. And then, of course, we know that very core, central to what it is that we do is the cross. The cross is our only hope. And we have to remain strong and this sense of divine providence, right? This trust in divine providence ultimately is very core to the spirituality of Moreau. And then those things translate themselves into the core values in our schools. So this picture here comes from one of the schools in the Midwest of the United States in Ohio at Gilmore Academy, which is a pre-kindergarten through 12th grade school. And they display here beautifully on these banners those core values of Holy Cross: hope, inclusiveness, forgiveness, divine providence, hospitality, the cross, option for the poor, and zeal. And then, as I mentioned, some of the schools break it down even further, and we refer to these as the pillars of Holy Cross education. And what are those 4 pillars? Building respect among all people, respect for self, and respect among all people. Bringing hope, right? We are called to be men and women, disciples with hope to bring. Being family, as we talked about a little bit earlier. And of course, going back to Moreau's, the mind must not be cultivated at the expense of the heart, educating hearts and minds. And so as I shift gears a little bit, and we talk specifically about you as a Holy Cross educator, I think it's important first and foremost to recognize that in our work, in our ministry, in our vocation, this is not just a job, right? There's a big difference, in my opinion, between somebody who's a teacher in a school versus somebody who's a teacher in a Catholic school versus somebody who's a Catholic school teacher or a Holy Cross educator. Right? As Catholic school teachers, Holy Cross educators, it's truly vocation. We've been called by God. Moreau said that anybody who's willing to take on this work must be called by God. And even from scripture, we read that this is an ordained ministry, right? As lay people, we are ordained by Christ. Ephesians 4:11 says, it was he who gave some to be apostles, some to be prophets, some to be evangelists, some to be pastors, and some to be teachers. And that's the role that we have. And Father Moreau said that the work of education was so demanding that no one could engage in it fully unless he or she had a call from God, helping young people to understand the reality that at the heart of every human longing is a desire for fullness of life and meaningful and life-giving relationships and for God. So when we talk about this vocational commitment, right? If you look at the infographic at the top there, with the red and yellow, and in the center where it says calling in the orange, right? So vocation is the coming together of what it is that you are passionate about, with what the world needs, and at the center of that is our calling. There's a great Jesuit priest that I heard give a talk a couple of weeks ago, and he said this about the vocational commitment. He said, every day when he's riding on the subway on his way to work, he says his prayers, and he asks himself the question, by what I teach and how I teach, am I making a difference? You see, this is who we are. We teach who it is that we are, right? And so I would urge all of you in your vocational call to ask yourselves the same question, by what you teach and how you teach, are you making a difference? Father Moreau said that those who teach will shine like the stars in heavens. He quoted, of course, the prophet Daniel 12:3, and saying that in the opening of the manuscript Christian Education, which is really the primary source that we use as Holy Cross educators, and I'm sure that many of you, if not all of you, are very familiar with Christian education. But in the opening, Father Moreau says this about pedagogy. Pedagogy derives from two Greek words, that for child and that for leading. And so then he surmises that pedagogy or education is the art of helping young people to completeness. And for the Christian, this means that education is helping a young person to be more like Christ, the model for all Christians. And this notion of pedagogy is founded on the principles of Catholicism and makes educating young people a most important work for those who try to perform it. As teachers, he says, it truly makes education the art of arts. I think it's also important to note that as Moreau defined in Christian education, he defined 9 virtues for a Holy Cross educator. And he writes about a paragraph or so on each one of these virtues. So as you think about yourself in these areas, I always like to ask people to sort of gauge on perhaps a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest, how you're performing personally and aspirationally towards each of these virtues, right? Faithfulness, right? Faithfulness is our faith in God. Knowledge. How much do you know? Do you know everything you need to know? Are you continuing to grow? Are you continuing to challenge yourself? Are you continuing to develop professionally? Zeal. Father Moreau says that zeal is that great desire to make God known, loved, and served. You know, I love this word zeal because this is so much different than energy. It's so much different than passion. Zeal is a combination of all of the above, of energy and passion, and as I used to tell my teachers at Bishop McNamara every day, I would say, bring it every day, bring it every day. Well, what is it that you want us to bring, Dr. Clark? I want you to bring zeal. Let your heart be on fire. Let the Jesus in your heart see the Jesus in their heart, right? Let the Jesus in your heart see the Jesus in their heart. And we create encounters with the living Christ. And how could we not do that with great zeal? Imagine if you were in the presence of Christ today. What would that do to your heart? It would set my heart on fire. I couldn't contain my excitement. Well, do we create that level of excitement every day for our students? Vigilance. Vigilance is making sure that we're well prepared. Vigilance is making sure that we follow through. Vigilance is making sure that we're grading our students' tests and papers in a timely way and getting it back to them. Vigilance is continuing our own professional development. Seriousness. There has to be a level of seriousness, but what Moreau also says is that serious should be balanced, right? It should be balanced with gentleness and patience. So in Christian education, he writes about gentleness. It's the longest passage in all of Christian education. So as you go chapter by chapter, passage by passage, he writes more about gentleness and the importance of gentleness for Holy Cross educators, right? Kind, considerate, compassionate, understanding that kids come from different backgrounds, making sure not to embarrass children, to be gentle and patient while also being prudent and firm. So it's a balance. These are the 9 virtues of a Holy Cross educator. And then these are characteristics that we've defined for Holy Cross educators. A Holy Cross teacher evangelizes, educates, and inspires through personal witness, right? The great author, educator and author Parker Palmer says that we teach who we are. We teach who we are. Our personal witness, right? You've heard the saying before that they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? And often years after our students have left, I think about my own experience. I grew up, I attended a Holy Cross school. I had about 25 or so Holy Cross brothers that worked at the school. I don't necessarily remember everything I learned in those classes, but I do remember their personal witness. And their personal witness was a witness to joy. It was a witness to a sense of family. It was a witness to encouragement. It was a witness that helped me to believe in myself. Before I believed in myself, they believed in me, right? Isn't that what the greatest motivators and greatest inspirational people do, and educators, right? As we help our students, we help others to believe in themselves, even if they don't necessarily see it in themselves. You know, one of the Holy Cross brothers that I look to as a model of all that it means to be Holy Cross, his humility, his intellect, his joy, his passion, a brilliant man, Brother Peter Vukmanik. He taught physics, arguably the most difficult class I ever took in all of high school, all of college, all the way through my doctoral degree. But this was a man that worked day and night to make sure that we succeeded. And he did so humbly, he did so professionally. He held us to the highest standards, and that's important as a Holy Cross educator. And years later, when I was back as the principal at the school and he had retired, he was still living in residence there at the school. And I went and visited him on a pretty regular basis. And I said to Brother Peter, I said, Brother Peter, and I shared with him how much of an impact he had had on my life. I said, but I have a little bit of a confession to make. Brother Peter, we teased you relentlessly because you have possibly the largest feet of any person we've ever seen. And he walked around, he was maybe a 5'10" gentleman, lanky, tall, skinny. However, he wore like a size 15 shoe. And he kind of clopped around the classroom and made a loud noise as he walked slowly around the classroom. And he, as he sat there in his slippers in retirement, he took his slippers off, and I noticed that his shoe size was much bigger than his feet. And he said, Marco, I always wore shoes 2 sizes too big to remind me that I'm not worthy to walk in Jesus's footsteps. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. Of course, I'm confessing to him that we teased him relentlessly, and now I feel even worse about that because of really what the meaning behind it was. But you know, Brother Peter describes and defines the epitome of all that it means to be a Holy Cross educator. It was his personal witness, his humility, his joy, his intellect. Number two, a Holy Cross teacher constantly strives to professionalize, expand, and enrich his or her own knowledge in order to better teach and lead the young people he or she is called to serve. A Holy Cross teacher rejoices in and is nourished by cultural, spiritual, and racial diversity. That's the beauty of our schools, right? We know that each and every child is a gift. Each and every child is unique, and the contributions that they bring to the community make the community better as a whole. I used to say to my students all the time that when one wins, we all win. But when one loses or hurts, we all lose and hurt together. A Holy Cross teacher believes in the innate potential of young people and strives to reach out to each child with a wide range of learning opportunities. There's not a one-size-fits all in education. It means it's harder today than ever before. What we know about students' learning differences, what we know about social, what we refer to, at least here, is the social emotional learning, right? We're expected to know more today as teachers than ever before. So not just about our subject matter, but about our students. But as long as we continue to believe, one of my favorite stories of another great mentor of mine, a beautiful Holy Cross educator by the name of Bill Kelly. When I was a young teacher, I chose him, I selected him as a mentor, and I asked him a question: what's the secret? What's the secret to being successful as a Catholic school teacher? Can you just tell me in a short sentence, what's the secret? And he said, Marco, just love the kids. And I said, well, Bill, there has to be more than that. And he said, no, there's not more than that. Just love the kids. And by loving the kids, you see in them that sacred seal, as Father Moreau says, that sacred seal, the innate potential in them. They are future saints, aspiring for holiness. They are our future. Number five, a Holy Cross teacher believes that a school must also be a family. Number six, a Holy Cross teacher is proud of his or her profession, and all that he or she does reflects that professional pride. I had another great mentor of mine, was an English teacher at Bishop McNamara, and then later worked under me when I was principal and president there, Mr. Odierno. Everybody called him Mr. O. Well, Mr. O, every single day came to work in a coat and tie. Every day had a coat and tie on, no matter how hot, no matter how cold, no matter how rainy, how snowy. If it was a day where we could dress casually in our street clothes, he always wore a suit and tie. And I asked him one time, Al, how come you always come to work in a suit and tie? And he said, because Marco, I have immense respect for the profession of educators, and educators don't get the respect that they deserve. So I at least want to put on these professional clothes every day to demonstrate to the world that I respect it and I should be respected. A Holy Cross teacher instructs not only in the specific discipline, but empowers through instruction and personal witness so that students can become informed and responsible citizens. I'll often ask the question to teachers, what is it that you teach? And they'll respond by saying, well, I teach science, or I teach English, or I teach British literature, or I teach Christian ethics, Catholic social teaching. And I say, no, what is it that you teach? And ultimately, we get to the core of it. What we do is we teach students. We use that subject matter, but we teach students. So let us not forget that first and foremost, what it is that we're teaching is we are teaching students. A Holy Cross teacher instills in each young person a sense of self-worth and dignity, right? We know that adolescence can be so difficult. We should be seeking to build up their sense of self-worth and their dignity. A Holy Cross teacher fosters among his or her students a self-respect and a self-discipline that allows each student to honor and respect others, right? I used to say to our families at Bishop McNamara all the time that if young people don't learn to be disciplined in the warm environment that we create in our loving school, then sadly, they're going to suffer the discipline in the cold outside environment after they leave our school. So let's help them, discipline them, teach them self-respect, teach them self-discipline, respect for others, so that they can go out and be thriving citizens in the world. A Holy Cross teacher gives freely of him or herself, and through that generous sharing of self, he or she becomes a model that young people can emulate. And I don't need to tell you, I know that it's late in the evening where you are right now, and you're still there, right? You're generously sharing of yourselves. I love seeing images as I walk the hallways sometimes in between class or in the stairwells where teachers are sitting with a student trying to help that student to learn, right? And dropping everything else that they're doing to make sure that that student is able. And then finally, a Holy Cross teacher understands that a school is meant to emulate a family. So when we talk about educating hearts and minds, we can state, Moreau says we can state in a word, I should say word, not work, we can state in a word the kind of teaching we hope to impart. We do not want our students to be ignorant of anything that they should know. To this end, we shall shrink from no sacrifice. We shall always place education side by side with instruction, right? Education is of the mind, instruction is of the heart. The mind will not be cultivated at the expense of the heart. Moreau also reminds us that knowledge is not sufficient. He says this world has a greater need for people of virtue than it does of scholars. So we must be teaching judgment, ethics, character, spirit, and action upon the knowledge of the head and the heart. And then I love this quote from Moreau where he says, education is a work of resurrection. It's meant to be a liberation from the darkness of ignorance. It's meant to be a vehicle for the transformation of society. And it's meant to be a process that helps to make all things, especially the persons engaged in it, new. That includes you and I. It's meant to be a process that helps to make all things, especially the persons engaged in it, you and I, new. I mentioned I'd come back to this word zeal. Moreau says that zeal is an apostolic activity. There's a big difference between spirituality and transmitting the faith versus apostolic activity. Think about the life of the apostles, the courage that they had to have, the passion that they had to possess, right? The belief. They allowed the Holy Spirit to work through them. And Moreau says that similarly, that this is what we do. It's an apostolic activity. So allow the Holy Spirit to work through us. It's the essential character of zeal is an apostolic activity. And teachers who are animated by this virtue will fulfill their duties with eagerness, affection, courage, and perseverance. Moreau concludes Christian education with this paragraph, these sentences. I love the way he ends it. So after writing about what it is we do and how it is that we do it, he concludes by saying, hurry then, hurry, take up this work of resurrection, never forgetting that the special end of our institute is before all to sanctify youth. It's by this that you'll contribute to preparing the world for better times than ours. For these students who now attend our school, they are the parents of the future, the parents of future generations, each one of them who bears with them a family. Influence them by all means of instruction and sanctification, right? Sanctification is making holy. Influence them by all means of instruction and sanctification that have just been explained. Then and only then can you hope to attain the end of your vocation by the renewal of the Christian faith and piety. May it be so, may it be so. There's a sense of urgency here to go out and do the work. The world needs what it is that we offer more than ever. And so Moreau urges us, and I urge you, with the eyes of faith, consider the greatness of your mission and the wonderful amount of good that you can accomplish. Moreau would use these words, you are for Holy Cross. You are for Holy Cross when he came upon his best teachers and when he came upon his best leaders. These were the ones that defined all of what you've just heard about. You are for Holy Cross. And I invite you, I'm going to play a brief video for you. You are invited by the Holy Cross Institute to participate in this year's convocation, which will be a virtual event. And it's going to be 3.5 days of programs developed to inspire you, developed to form you, developed to inform you in areas that will help you as a Holy Cross educator. So it's April 15th through the 18th. And let me just see if I can get this video up and going for you. Hopefully this will work. All right, I'm not sure if you're seeing this video or not.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the beautiful campus of St. Edward's University here in Austin, Texas, home of the Holy Cross. April 15th through 18th, the Holy Cross Institute Convocation, that annual gathering of Holy Cross educators around the world, this completely virtual event will be coming to you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the beautiful campus of St. Edward's University here in Austin, Texas, home of the Holy Cross. April 15th through 18th, Holy Cross Institute Convocation, that annual gathering of Holy Cross educators around the world, this completely virtual event will be coming to you April 15th through 18th. Will feature 3 keynote presentations, over 50 workshops, breakout sessions, opportunities to gather affinity groups, working, pray together, celebrate the 200. Best of all,
Dr. Marco, we can't hear you, the volume is not there.
All righty, Father Prosper, sorry about that. I couldn't figure out quite how to get that to work. There we go. You there, Father Prosper? All righty, so let me just go back to my slideshow as I'm going to wrap up here for you. And I wasn't quite sure how that video would work. If it would work, I'll figure out that next time around. But as I conclude my presentation, I really just want to take a moment to thank you for the invitation. Really quite an honor for me to be with you today and to be able to have had this opportunity to share with you. And you know, I hope that, again, as Father Moreau's words are so urgent, that you do hurry and that you do continue to take up this work of resurrection, right? This is the Lenten season, and it's throughout Lent that we're reminded of the preparation and the sufferings that our Lord faced. But what followed those sufferings was resurrection, right? For every Good Friday, there's an Easter Sunday. And while our world is facing grave difficulties today, we must remain disciples with hope to bring. And we must bring that into our classrooms every single day so that the boys and girls, the young men and women who are in front of us themselves will graduate as Holy Cross men and women with hope to bring. And so with that, I'm going to conclude, and I'm happy to take a couple of questions if there's time for it, Father Prosper.
Thank you so much, Dr. Marco.
And you know what, Father Prosper, I know you're saying something, but I'm not getting any of it. It's all broken up. It's kind of skipping and breaking up, so I'm not hearing what it is you're asking.
If we have no questions, I will invite, we have Father Ponciano here with us. He's a Holy Cross priest, educating with us to give a vote of thanks.
so much, Father Prosper, for organizing for us this wonderful session, for learning more about Holy Cross education and being Holy Cross educators. And we thank you, Dr. Marco, for spending for us this time to speak to us and to help us know more about how we can be able to bring this to ourselves in our own institution as well as the Holy Cross collaborators did. So we'd like to invite us these understanding. I'd like to say thank you so much and wishing you the best.
Dr. Marco, sure appreciate your time. At first, the election disturbed us, but by God's grace, we made a breakthrough. I'll be connecting with you for tomorrow's talk about the students. Thank you so much. God bless you. Receive our greetings from Holy Cross Lakeview in East Africa, and greet our brothers in Texas. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Really my pleasure, Father Prosper. And again, I remind all of us, let's remain disciples with hope to bring. And I look forward to talking with you again. I hope to see you soon.
See you soon. When you send the recording, we shall share it with all the members of staff.
Indeed, I will. And I'll send you as well a copy of the PowerPoint that I used, and you're welcome to use any of those materials for anything.
That would be great. Okay. Thank you. Have a blessed morning. For us, it is in the evening.
That's right. That's right. Well, you all have a good night, and we'll talk again soon. Please feel free to reach out if I can ever help.
Thank you.
All righty. Take care.